I want to talk about leadership when we discuss values, because every successful person I have ever read about, watched, spoken with, this topic of leadership comes up. And there's an interesting book by Richard Barrett that uses a model based on Maslow's hierarchy, which is this pyramid shape, and it talks about 7 levels of leadership. And it's very values-driven, because at the bottom, level 1, is very much about survival and safety. You have certain values that are more just about paying your bills, getting through, getting, to the end of the month, starting to build up a little bit of money, and feeling more secure. Now, that's a natural evolution as we graduate, but if we get stuck there, some of you have been practiced for 5 and 10 years and you're still stuck there. Level 2 about leadership is more where you start to create those values around relationships and communication. How do I educate someone? How do I communicate the real message of chiropractic? Because that becomes more important to you. Level 3 of leadership, as we move up this hierarchy, is more about performance and best practice. That's where you realize that maybe the technique that you graduated with has served you for a certain period of time, but you're not getting the results. So you notice that natural evolution. This really links a little bit with what Dennis spoke about, that there's natural stages or pivot points. But the whole idea is that we want you moving through these levels of leadership. Level 4 of leadership is now more about adaptability, employee participation, and decision making. Notice that decision or decisiveness. Keep moving through this, and you're going to move up to what we call this level 5 of leadership, which is more an integrator or an inspirer. Some of your new values start to open up at this level. Up in level 6, as you keep moving through this, you're now going to get to where it's more about community involvement and strategic alliances. This is where many of you are now doing wellness things out in your community. Not just a talk, but some of you are having groups of you band together to create the wellness alliances in your communities. It's where you become the resource. You're not just about practice anymore, but you're about really changing your community. One of the first things John DeMartini had me do when he started coaching with me when I was about to graduate, he had me get a huge poster for my wall, which was a poster of the world. And John had me get some little stick pins, and he said, you're going to put a pin in every country, city, or area where patients start coming to you. I was worried about paying my bills. But John still had me on my board have this picture up, and if people at the Gonstead Clinic could create where people flew from wherever to come and see them, I just decided, why couldn't I? And before you know it, suddenly a patient came in and their family from Russia was visiting. Would I check and adjust them? Suddenly some other patients were referring family and friends from other countries. It took a few years, but you noticed that I started putting pins on that board, didn't I? As we move up this hierarchy, we get less focused on us and just our practice and more on our community and the world. And you know what? John always taught me that if I worried about the world, my practice would worry about itself. The more values-based I became, the more I moved up this hierarchy, all the other stuff started to fall into place. Level 7 of this is more about ethics and social responsibility. What I want you to see is as you move up this, it still doesn't mean that things aren't going to happen day in and day out that pull you down to a different level in this. You could be as community-oriented as you want, but all of a sudden you go into the office and a staff person just doesn't show up that day. You're a little bit back down in level 1, aren't you? Survival. How are we going to get the phones answered today? But the real trick is that you want to be able to move through this and back up to the pinnacle of this. What I want you to understand with leadership is good is not good enough. Many of you are living a good life. Chiropractic is living a good existence right now. But I have to tell you that good is not good enough. We are crying in chiropractic for leaders. Where are our level 7 leaders? Where are the people at the pinnacle?